Alright, good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television, your one-stop morning show for top stories from India and around the globe. My name is Aishwarya and these are this morning's headlines. Over 3.18 lakh more affordable houses to be built in urban areas under the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Total of 51 lakh houses sanctioned under scheme in the last 3 years. Big jump as compared to old housing scheme in which 12.4 lakh houses were approved in around 9 years. Prime Minister calls for working to make a democratic ethos in the country stronger. Salutes the courage of those who resisted the emergency 43 years ago. To felicitate anti-emergency fighters at an event in Mumbai today. Bilateral trade concerns to be discussed as US trade representatives arrive on 2-day Delhi visit. Talks ahead of India's decision to impose retaliatory tariffs against US's move to hike duty on steel and aluminium comes into force. Eleven deaths in rain-related incidents, 3 deaths as rain bound Mumbai and Thane. 5 killed in lightning strikes in West Bengal. And Uruguay beat a 10-man Russian side 3-0 at the FIFA World Cup. Saudi Arabia beat Egypt in the second Group A match. Portugal, Iran and Spain-Morocco matches in Group B end in a draw. Our top story this morning: in a significant milestone achieved by the government under its Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, 51 lakh houses have been sanctioned under the scheme in the 3 years of its implementation. The milestone was reached as the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs conducted its meeting of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana Urban yesterday, where a total of 3,18,900 houses from 6 states and union territories were approved. And with this, the Prime Minister Housing Scheme Urban has approved now more than 51 lakh dwelling units against an estimated demand of 1 crore. Well, this is a huge jump in comparison to the old housing scheme, where 12.4 lakh houses were approved in around 9 years of its implementation. The total project cost approved under the scheme stands at 2.81 lakh crore rupees, with a central assistance of 77,934 crore rupees. A total of 7.6 lakh houses are already completed and another 28 lakh have been grounded. The Government of India is committed to provide housing for all by the end of the mission period 2022. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the 3rd annual meeting of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank in Mumbai today. The theme for this year is mobilizing finance for infrastructure, innovation and collaboration, given the private sector's vital role in bridging the infrastructure gap. Now, there will be an inaugural launch of the Asian Infrastructure Forum as well. The forum will gather infrastructure practitioners in a practical and project-driven discourse. Later, the Prime Minister will also meet business leaders and the captains of industry for a discussion on issues such as economic growth, infrastructure development, policy initiatives, investment, innovation and job creation. AIIB is a multilateral development bank with a mission to improve social and economic outcomes in Asia and beyond. And Finance Minister PIYUSH GOYAL has said that India would need $4.5 trillion for investment in infrastructure over the next decade, and the cost of the money will be a challenge, but raising the resources would not be an issue, he said. He was speaking at the 3rd annual meeting of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. The minister, however, said that finding the required finance will not be a deterrence for the country. Capacity building to handle big infra projects is also a challenge, and he hoped that multilateral institutions like the AIIB will help in both the challenges.
In some sense, the growing need for multi-development banks in the Asian context also resonates very well with the thrust that the Modi government is giving to creating sustainable infrastructure in the country. We do believe that a robust framework which is predictable, simple, easy to navigate and also very stable is necessary for infrastructure to come into the country, investment to come into the country.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi has termed the emergency as a dark period in the country. In a series of tweets, Prime Minister Modi said that it was during this period between 1975 and 1977 that every institution was subverted and an atmosphere of fear was created. He said that he salutes the courage of those people who steadfastly resisted the emergency. The BJP is marking the 43rd anniversary of the emergency as Black Day. The Prime Minister further called upon people to work to make democratic ethos stronger, saying that no force can ever trample the basic tenets of our Constitution. The Prime Minister will today felicitate anti-emergency workers at an event in Mumbai. The event is being organized by the BJP's Mumbai unit. The party leaders will hold press conferences today in several states as well, targeting the Congress for the imposition of emergency in the country. And Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu on Monday asserted that a crucial lesson of emergency was that it was the responsibility of each citizen to uphold liberties and freedom of fellow citizens and that intolerance should not be accepted. He said this at the release of the Hindi, Kannada, Telugu and the Gujarati versions of the book titled Emergency, Indian Democracy's Darkest Hour, authored by Chairman of Prasar Bharati A. Surya Prakash. Now, stating that no sensible government would dare to resort to emergency after the resounding pro-democracy verdict of the people in 1977, Naidu said that now the threat to individual freedoms is from some misguided citizens. The Vice President also called for the inclusion of emergency in the curriculum to remind the young of the darkest hour of democracy and value of liberty and freedom.
This emergency, which is the darkest period of Indian democracy, this should also form part of our curriculum for all the youngsters to know what was emergency, how it was imposed, why it was imposed, when it was imposed, then how it got lifted.
Every generation must know about the heroes and villains of the emergency. They must read about the heroic efforts of Jaiprakash Narayan. They must also know about the true grit of Ramnath Goenka and the courage of Justice H.R. Khanna. This will encourage them to stand up to defend democratic values and our Constitution.
And on the 43rd anniversary of emergency, the BJP organized an exhibition in the national capital, organized by the BJP's Rajya Sabha MP GOYAL. The exhibition is displaying news clippings and letters exchanged between the arrested political leaders during this period. The exhibition was inaugurated by Union Ministers Ram Vilas Paswan and Thawar Chand Gehlot and senior BJP leader Kalraj Mishra. The exhibition also showcases photographs of leaders who were jailed during the emergency and also the letters and the pamphlets that were distributed by the leaders protesting emergency. The two-day exhibition aims to create awareness among the people about the emergency. And in a Facebook post titled The Emergency Revisited, Union Minister Arun Jaitley wrote that more than 4 decades ago, the government led by the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi had imposed a phony emergency, turning democracy into a constitutional dictatorship. Indira Gandhi imposed emergency on 25th of June 1975 on account of internal disturbances, suspending key fundamental rights guaranteed under the Constitution to every citizen. Now, Jaitley said that he became the first satyagrahi against Indira Gandhi government's draconian move and was lodged in Tihar jail for organizing a protest meeting on 26th of June 1975. He said that the right to free speech and personal liberty were clamped and only censored news was available. All right, let's get you some other news now. India and Seychelles have decided to jointly work on creating a naval base in strategically important Assumption Island in Indian Ocean. India will also provide a Dornier aircraft to Seychelles that will be dedicated to the country on its National Day on 29th of June. India and Seychelles also inked 6 MOUs after summit-level talks between Prime Minister Modi and Seychelles President. Here are the details.
Uncertainty over the future of India's presence on strategically important Assumption Island is over. Seychelles President Danny Faure has announced that both countries will develop the island together. India had long proposed creating a naval base on the island but faced resistance from the opposition of the country. India has its strategic interests on the island. It can keep a watch on the movement of ships in the Indian Ocean, including near Pakistan and Iran from there.
Assumption द्वीप प्रोजेक्ट के संबंध में एक दूसरे के हितों के आधार पर मिलकर काम करने पर हम सहमत हैं। नेविगेशन चार्ट्स की उपलब्धता को सुधारने के लिए, हाइड्रोग्राफी सर्वेस करने के लिए हम व्यापक रूप से सहयोग कर रहे हैं।
In the context of maritime security, Assumption Island was discussed. We are equally engaged and will continue to work together, bearing each other's interest in mind. We have underscored our commitment to remain at the heart of joint initiatives and collective efforts to stimulate and facilitate cooperation in fields representing priorities on the sub-regional, regional, and continental agendas.
Faure, who is on a 6-day visit to India, had announced earlier that there would be no talks on Assumption Island. On the contrary, the issue was discussed in detail. During the summit-level meeting, India also announced an easy loan of $100 million for buying defense equipment. Both sides also signed 6 agreements on comprehensive development partnership in infrastructure development, education, cyber security, data sharing on ships, municipal cooperation between Panaji and Victoria, and training of Seychelles Foreign Service officials. India will also build the Seychelles Governor House, Police Headquarters and Attorney General Office building.
मैंने सेशल्स की राष्ट्रीय प्राथमिकता की परियोजनाओं के लिए प्रभावी योगदान को जारी रखने की भारत की प्रतिबद्धता दोहराई है। इन परियोजनाओं से न केवल सेशल्स की अर्थव्यवस्था बेहतर होगी, बल्कि इससे हमारे आपसी संबंध कई गुना प्रगाढ़ होंगे। स्पेशल ग्रांट के अंतर्गत सेशल्स में 3 सिविलियन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट्स को फाइनेंस करने के लिए भारत तैयार है।
On behalf of the people and government of Seychelles, I would like to say thank you for the announcement that you have just made. We will benefit from a second line of credit that will help with the infrastructure of our military defense forces in Seychelles.
Earlier, the Seychelles President received a guard of honor and ceremonial welcome in the forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan. He also met President Ramnath Kovind and Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu.
India and Seychelles have decided to further deepen their strategic relationship with a view to enhance the blue economy and give peace and prosperity in the region. They will also work with the political parties to create a consensus on the relationship between India and Seychelles for the future. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya Sabha Television with camera person Raj Thakur in Delhi.
On to some other news now. UAE Foreign Minister Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, who is on a week-long visit to India, yesterday held talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj. The UAE Foreign Minister called on Prime Minister Modi and discussed bilateral cooperation in trade and investment, defence and people-to-people ties. Prime Minister Modi tweeted, "Delighted to meet His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, UAE. We had detailed discussions on cementing India-UAE ties." The visiting minister noted the growing interest in the UAE for investment in India sectors such as energy, housing, food processing and infrastructure. PM Modi also appreciated Abu Dhabi's National Oil Company's decision to invest in the upcoming Greenfield mega refinery and petrochemicals complex in India and also welcomed the signing of an MOU in this regard. Meanwhile, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj on Monday also held talks with the UAE Foreign Minister Al Nahyan. MEA spokesperson Ravish Kumar tweeted, "Partnership going from strength to strength. Leaders exchanged views on consolidating our bilateral relationship across several sectors between the two countries." The UAE Foreign Minister during his trip will also visit Ahmedabad, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Chennai and Bengaluru besides Delhi. And in breakfast news, time for a very short break. We'll be right back with more news. Don't go anywhere.
On this edition of India's World, we will take a closer look at the UN HRC report on Kashmir.
It's a kind of a report based on a perception, a prejudiced perception of what's happening in Kashmir.
He is using words which are traditionally often used by Pakistan to describe the situation. So obviously it means that he has been influenced in a very big way.
By giving a clean chit to Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, he has made a dent in the credibility of United Nations Human Rights Commission.
Welcome back after the break. Let's get you some other news now. Indian Commerce Ministry officials will hold talks with their US counterparts in New Delhi from today. The meetings are to resolve a plethora of trade issues days after India announced retaliatory tariffs on 29 products from the US, striking back against Washington's move to impose higher duties on Indian steel and aluminium exports. The duties on US goods will take effect from 4th of August. Now, at least 7 to 8 officials from the U.S. administration, including Assistant U.S. Trade Representative Mark Linscott, are in New Delhi for the talks. Apart from issues pertaining to the duty hike by America on Indian steel and aluminium, review of the export benefits to certain domestic products and also visa tightening norms will come up at the meeting. Both the sides could also deliberate on their disputes at the World Trade Organization of the WTO. Remember, India and the US are fighting cases related to several sectors, including steel and aluminium, export subsidies and solar cells at the WTO. And the Housing and Urban Affairs Ministry has received in principle approval from the Finance Ministry for the Phase 4 of the Delhi Metro and the Metro Rail projects in 5 cities of Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh. Besides, the ministry has also received in principle approval for Delhi Meerut section of the regional rapid transit system after the launch of new metro policy in August last year. The projects would now be sent to the Public Investment Board for its nod and then placed before the cabinet for its approval. Let's get you all the weather updates, and 11 people are reported to have died due to rain and lightning related incidents across the country as heavy rains continue to lash various parts of Mumbai, and the southwest monsoon has picked up momentum across northwest of the country as well. Now, heavy showers have claimed at least 3 lives in Mumbai, and the heavy downpour through the weekend as well as Monday morning caused massive waterlogging at several places. The movement of suburban trains were also affected, causing inconvenience to the office goers. The IMD has forecast heavy to very heavy rain in the city in the next 24 hours as well. Incessant rains and thunderstorms have claimed 5 lives in West Bengal as well. And heavy rains also lashed several parts of Gujarat, especially in the south of the country, particularly in Valsad, Surat and Navsari districts, causing waterlogging, and it also threw normal life out of gear in the region. In northeast India, Odisha and West Bengal, the southwest monsoon also regained steam after a brief hiatus, triggering heavy showers in several parts of the region. And the Met Department says that the rain-bearing winds are also likely to cover the entire state over the next 2 days. Meanwhile, the central and northern parts of India are also set to receive pre-monsoon showers this week as per the IMD. Monsoon is set to arrive in the national capital this week, bringing some relief from the rising temperatures in the region. Now let's get you all the action from the Football World Cup in Russia. First up, all the results of the Monday's matches. While Uruguay beat Russia 3-0 in the first of the Group A encounters yesterday, and Luis Suarez helped fire Uruguay after opening the scoring. A pinpoint free kick from the Barcelona star and an own goal from Denis Cheryshev put Uruguay 2-0 up within 23 minutes of the match before Edinson Cavani added their late third goal. Russia were reduced to 10 men after 36 minutes after right back Igor Smolkinov was sent off for 2 yellow cards. Well, this is the first time that Uruguay have won all the 3 group games at a World Cup finals. They will play their last 16 tie in Sochi this Saturday against the Group B runners-up, either Spain, Portugal or Iran. And the second Group A match, Saudi Arabia beat Egypt 2-1. Egypt's SM Al-Hadari, the oldest player ever to appear at a World Cup, marked his record achievement with one outstanding penalty save, but that was not enough against Saudi Arabia. Mohamed Salah's Egypt still have not recorded a World Cup finals win in 3 appearances, despite Liverpool talisman's superb opening goal. And in the Group B encounters yesterday, Cristiano Ronaldo missed a penalty before Portugal conceded an injury time spot kick in a 1-all draw with Iran. The European champions have now set up a last 16 clash with Uruguay in Sochi on 30th of July for a place in the quarterfinals after ending Iran's hopes of reaching the knockout phase for the first time. And Spain and Morocco match ended in a 2-all draw. Spain progressed as the group winner because it scored more goals, and they next play hosts Russia on Sunday in Moscow. And on day 13 of the FIFA World Cup today, here are the matches that are slated for the day. It will be Australia versus Peru in a Group C match at 7:30 p.m. in Sochi. And the other match in this group also to be played at 7:30 p.m. is France versus Denmark. And later in the day today, 2 Group D matches will be played at 11:30 p.m. The first is when Argentina takes on Nigeria, and in the second match of the group, Croatia will play Iceland. All right, we have with us Jyoti Ann Buret, former national football player, joining us this morning. A very good morning, Ms. Buret. Of course, 4 interesting matches we saw yesterday. Speaking about Russia versus Uruguay, of course, Uruguay will be really happy to wrap up their first place in Group A. You know, yesterday, as you were telling us, that Russia really need to work hard. They looked confident, but this game was essentially over by halftime.
It was. I think Russia lacked some of the fire we've seen with them for the first 2 games yesterday. I think that red card also made a big difference, but those 2 early goals by Uruguay really sunk them.
Absolutely. And speaking about Saudi versus Egypt match, of course, both teams were, already eliminated. This was a dead rubber, but then Saudi scoring a late goal, beating Egypt 2-1.
Yeah, it's a bit sad for Egypt. I would have liked to see them at least leave the competition with a win. But of course, Saudi Arabia were the better side yesterday, and I think they deserved that 2-1 win.
Absolutely. They prevented African nation from winning its first ever match at the tournament. But also speaking about Group B matches, I think, speaking about the Portugal-Iran draw, it was, the third and the final match of the day. Both teams had a chance to it was, I think, the most interesting match yesterday because both the teams wanted to advance to the knockout stage. Both teams also knew that a bad result could send them home, and then this draw.
It was a really good match, very high paced, and both teams really showed how much they wanted it yesterday. It was nail biting, but probably one of the best games we've seen so far.
Yes.
Iran really showed us what they can do. And Portugal had it very tough, and I'm sure they were very, very scared about being knocked out yesterday.
Absolutely. And another match ending in a draw, Spain versus Morocco, of course. I think it was again a crazy 2-all draw, full of drama, and then video referral chaos. That also made for a very interesting match.
Yeah, yet again, Morocco fought back. I mean, Spain, we know they're one of the best sides in the World Cup this time, but, it just goes to show how much the smaller teams are coming up, and they're making it tough for the big guns.
And I think, Buret, that, this World Cup is the first to use FIFA's this VR system, the video assistant referral system, and the drama around it also makes up for a very interesting match as well.
Yeah, 20 penalties so far.
Yes.
Yeah.
And speaking about today's match, there are 4 matches. First is Australia, Peru, and obviously Australia will have hopes in their hearts because Peru are already out. After their defeats, they'll be playing for pride. But Australia have a lot at stake.
Yeah, as we saw in the last game, Australia created this for themselves and destiny's in their own hands today when they go up against Peru. If they can play like they did against Argentina and Denmark, I feel they have a very good chance of qualifying.
And it's the second match of France versus Denmark. Of course, France has already earned its place in the round 16, with little fuss. And a draw against Denmark today really would be enough today?
Yes, it will be, but I'm sure they're going to be going for the win. This is playing for your country at the end of the day, and they're going to want to top this pool. So they are going to go for that win, and it's going to be a very interesting game.
Yeah, of course, but Denmark need really a point to guarantee a spot in the knockout. And speaking about the Nigeria versus Argentina match, well, of course, both will be battling it out for the last 16 spot, and Argentina will be hoping that history is on its side today as well, because this is their fifth encounter really in the FIFA World Cup, and they have won 4 so far.
I think Argentina have left it very late this time. It's going to be tough for them. It's not something we expected from this side to be in this situation, but everything is wide open in this group. So we're going to wait to see. They're going up against a very tough Nigerian side who are coming off a win. So it's going to be very interesting to see how close it is going to be today. I'm hoping Messi can finally arrive at this tournament today. And that I think the whole world is hoping for that and waiting for that.
Of course, in the last match, Croatia versus Iceland, Croatian, I think they've made the best possible start to their campaign. They won against Nigeria. Of course, there was this impressive win against Argentina as well. But of course, Iceland also need a win, and this match obviously will also, Argentina, Nigeria go their way. That is what they'll be hoping.
Yeah, I mean, they're going up against obviously a tough side, but Croatia has shown us great quality so far. Their top players are in form, they're performing, and I personally don't think they'll have much of a problem today.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Burett. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your perspective on all the matches that are slated for the day as well as yesterday's matches as well. And for all the in-depth analysis of all the day's matches with our experts in our studio, do also watch our special daily show on the FIFA World Cup every day at 7 p.m. It is, of course, the new show timing for our Football World Cup coverage. So don't forget to tune in. Let's get you some more sporting action. Indian archer Deepika Kumari bagged individual gold medal in women's recurve event at the Archery World Cup in the US on Monday. Deepika defeated Germany's Michelle Kroppen by 7-3, paving her way into the final, which will be held in Turkey. Now, Deepika said that she was constantly motivating herself and her focus was on enjoying the game. The Archery World Cup final will be held in Turkey on 29th and 30th of September this year. And World Champions India stormed into the semi-finals of the Kabaddi Masters as they continue to dominate the tournament with a second successive win over Pakistan on Monday night. India scored a 41-17 win over Pakistan, recording their second successive victory over the team, and they continue to remain unbeaten so far in the Kabaddi Masters Dubai 2018. Now, top raider Rohit Kumar and new recruit Monu Goyat, along with strong defence by Girish Maruti Mark, led the Indian team to a spectacular win last night. India will now take on Kenya tonight in Group A match at 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Meanwhile, in the other match last night, Iran beat Korea 31-27. Making their way into the semi-finals, which will be held on 30th of June. And with that, we wrap up this edition of Breakfast News. But news and updates continue on your channel. Thanks for watching.